Hello everyone and welcome. Remember the year 2000, the new millennium? The whole world was holding its breath, secretly expecting something extraordinary. There was all this talk about the end of the world, the second coming of Christ, all sorts of wild theories. At that time, I was just living my life. I had been baptized, sure, but I wasn't what you'd call a believer. God wasn't on my radar, and I definitely wasn't thinking about sin. I was wrapped up in my business, which had its ups and downs, just trying to make my way. Then one morning, completely out of the blue, a thought hit me like a ton of bricks. Does God exist? It sounds simple, but it really stopped me in my tracks. Why is the world so neatly divided into believers and non-believers? Can't we figure this out for sure? I started thinking about it from the perspective of a non-believer. What do they think of all the people who do believe? Are they delusional, misguided? I saw myself as a pretty normal, rational person. I go to work, I live my life, I trust that scientists have a good handle on how the world works. But life keeps moving forward, and that big question of faith just hangs in the air, unanswered. And here we were at the dawn of a new millennium, and even our brightest scientists couldn't give definitive answers to some of the most fundamental questions about our existence. That's when a bold idea popped into my head. What if I tried to answer these questions myself? Now, I didn't think I was a genius, but I also didn't consider myself a fool. I had noticed how some materialist scientists would just dismiss things they couldn't explain. Phenomena like clairvoyance, prophecies, UFOs, things people have reported for centuries. It seemed like a bit of a cop-out. I realized that to get answers to all these smaller mysteries, I first had to tackle the biggest question of all. Is there a God? For many people, this isn't even a question, but for me, it had become one. I didn't ponder it too long. I used to play a lot of chess, and it taught me a valuable lesson. You can never assume you're smarter than your opponent, and you should never underestimate them. I looked around at the world. Think about all the temples, churches, and mosques that have been built throughout history, and how many are still being built today. For what? Is it all just a grand deception? A tool for psychological control? It seemed unlikely. If you assume God doesn't exist, you have to explain why millions upon millions of people flock to these places of worship. What are they getting out of it? Maybe they see something that the rest of us are missing. It's like asking if there are fish in a lake. Who would you ask? A scientist in a lab, or the fisherman who spends every day by the water? The fisherman would know. What if in that lake there was a goldfish that could grant your wishes? You wouldn't know unless you went to the lake and tried to find it. After weighing all the pros and cons, I made a decision for myself. The evidence was too overwhelming to ignore. I concluded that God must exist. The sheer scale of belief throughout human history couldn't be for nothing. And this led me to another logical step. If God exists, then there must be traces of his actions here on earth. A being not powerful couldn't just create everything and then step away, not influencing our lives at all, as some deists suggest. He must be involved. So I set myself a goal. I was going to find God's traces on earth. Now, I have to be honest with you. At that moment, I was incredibly naive. I hadn't really read the Bible. I didn't know the words of Jesus Christ from the New Testament in the book of Luke, where he says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened to you. For everyone who asks receives, and he who seeks finds, and to him who knocks it will be opened." I didn't realize that the words I was looking for were already there, waiting for me. My path, it seems, was already laid out. What I also didn't know, or even suspect, was that the words in the Bible aren't just words on a page. They act like the physical laws of nature. They are alive. This is what sets the Bible apart from every other book ever written. So who was to blame for my ignorance? Was it me? My parents? My teachers?
The scientists I trusted? It's a sad thing to realize you've lived most of your adult life just winging it, relying only on yourself, with no thought for the deeper consequences. Looking back, I came to a startling conclusion. I had lost everything. It reminded me of Pascal's wager. Pascal basically said this: if God doesn't exist and I don't believe in him, I lose nothing. But if God does exist and I don't believe in him, I lose everything. That principle hit home. I had been living on the losing side of that bet. But the story doesn't end there. Now, with God's help, I feel like I'm regaining everything I once lost. And what's more, the Lord promises to give back 100-fold to all who follow him. I want to make something very clear to all of you watching. Please don't think I'm sitting here claiming to be some perfect, righteous, sinless person. I'm not. I strive for it, but being completely sinless is beyond my power right now. I'm a work in progress, just like everyone else. In fact, for the longest time, even after I had gathered all this information and had these realizations, I had no idea how to put it all together, how to share it, how to write a book. I was stuck. But then, when the time was right, it all became clear. I suddenly understood how to write it and exactly what I needed to say. It felt like the final piece of the puzzle clicking into place. My journey of seeking had led me to a place of finding, and now a place of sharing. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. If any of this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. It means the world to me. See you next time.